All right, time to talk about Alter Bridge's new album Fortress. Came out 2 weeks ago now, and I've just been giving it some time to sink in. I don't really understand how people can just hear an album once and have a solid critique of it and know it inside and out and be able to reference things. I definitely like to give records some time because usually bands between one record and another will undergo some stylistic changes, and it just takes some time to absorb all that. So definitely looking forward to going in depth with this record a little bit. First, I think I'm going to give a little background just on what drew me to Alter Bridge as a band in the first place. I was kind of late to the party. I heard Blackbird for the first time. That's their second record, Blackbird. I heard it for the first time about 2 years ago, so I was a little late. That was about when Alter Bridge 3 came out. So I think it's safe to say that, especially in today's world, there's a really clear dividing line between stuff that's commercially accessible and stuff that's metal. There's the bands like 3 Days Grace and Theory of a Dead Man, Breaking Benjamin, who are mainstream accessible and tone down the instrumentals a little bit. Not a lot of guitar solos. Great stuff. I love all those bands. But not a lot of guitar solos, not a lot of crazy drums. They sacrifice a little instrumentation and a little bit of maybe like experimentation for that mainstream sound. And then on the other side, you have the metal bands who are, at least in certain subgenres of metal, are playing, technical stuff, challenging themselves on the instrument, but sacrificing accessibility. And I've always looked for bands that are able to have a mix of those two things. It's really rare when a band can have like ear candy accessibility, but also play their asses off. And that is what has made me love Avenged Sevenfold in the recent years. Obviously, their older stuff isn't accessible, but in their last 4 albums now, actually, they've been able to combine like really poppy melodies with still like playing their asses off and interesting guitar solos and interesting time changes and progressions. And that's what I think makes them really unique, that they can be accessible but still be great players. Alter Bridge is a band. When I found them, I thought that reminded me a lot of Avenged Sevenfold. They play their asses off. Mark Tremonti, who's actually the guitar player in Creed, if you can believe that, if you're not familiar, is a really killer player, plays great solos, and just writes great riffs. Miles Kennedy is, besides being an amazing singer, he's also an amazing guitarist too. But their choruses are so catchy, so just really tailored for radio, and not in a bad way. Just like you hear it, and it's anthemic. It really, you can see it filling an arena. You can see Alter Bridge filling arenas and playing. So that's what I heard on Blackbird, and that's what I liked. And Blackbird's definitely a record that I think all music fans should have. Just should own it and hear it. Whether you like it or not is okay. It doesn't matter, but everybody should own that album because I think it really is more groundbreaking than people give credit for. People usually just talk about it as a kick-ass, hard rock record, but just the fact that they were able to combine so many cool technical instrumentation abilities with like an unbelievable pop accessibility too. They had a lot of great ballads on that album, and even the heavy stuff had big rock choruses. But unlike Breaking Benjamin or 3 Days Grace, they didn't have to sacrifice any instrumental sections and solos. They had all that too. I just loved it. So here we are in 2013, and I actually had no idea they were coming out with an album. I was just on iTunes on a Tuesday because I know that's when music comes out, and I saw Alter Bridge Fortress, and I was like, wow, they came out with an album. I had no idea because I loved the Slash album Miles Kennedy last year, Apocalyptic Love. So I've been listening to that ever since. I didn't realize that they were off tour now, and I guess in the meantime, between his million projects, Miles Kennedy made another Alter Bridge album, and obviously I liked Tremonti's last solo album too. So I guess they had a little bit of free time and made an album. And I just, all it took was I previewed the first song. I just clicked on it just to make sure it sounded like Alter Bridge. And it was Cry of Achilles, which had just an unbelievable, like, metal sounding riff. It really blew me away. And I was like, all right, that's it. That's all I need. That's all the convincing I need, and I immediately downloaded it. Now, Fortress is, I hinted at the fact that on Blackbird and Alter Bridge 3 and even One Day Remains, their debut, Alter Bridge has a lot of metal elements, and they combine them with a pop accessibility and a lot of hard rock balladry and stuff. Well, Fortress is a different story. Fortress is Alter Bridge functioning as a full-fledged metal band. Full-fledged metal band. They sound all of a sudden they sound completely like a metal band in every sense of the word. From the acoustic intro of Cry of Achilles to the there's some awesome double bass grooves on the track The Uninvited, track 5, I believe. And they sound just like a metal band. There's no more crossover feel, but they still have the poppy choruses and the accessibility, but now they've turned it up a notch and been more experimental and more of a metal band. The only ballad on here that is reminiscent of old Alter Bridge is track 11, All Ends Well, which is a great song and a great ballad. But the rest of this is, I'm not going to say it's not accessible, but it's full-fledged metal music. That's the argument that I've made. A lot of people would disagree with me, but I think that Fortress is Alter Bridge as a full-fledged metal band. Now, I'm not going to make the judgment whether this is better than Blackbird. I think they're two different styles. And if you are more into the accessible sound and you want to hear more ballads and more kind of poppy ear candy choruses, you may not like Fortress as much as Blackbird. But if you're a metal fan and are looking to maybe get into Alter Bridge, not a fan of poppier stuff, this is a really good album to really consider. I think I'm just going to run through some tracks. Let's get my good old iPod out. So the first 3 tracks just right away blow you away. Cry of Achilles, just the riffage in that, really, it's full-fledged metal riffage. It really is. It's unbelievable. It clocks in at 6 minutes and 30 seconds. So again, the accessibility, although the choruses are great and big choruses, this is a metal record. That's my argument right now. Addicted to Pain is the first single, really catchy. You can see why they chose it. Another awesome riff fest, and I think that while this is the most hard rock-esque song on the album, it's still a metal song. Then we get to a whole new level of heavy for Alter Bridge, the song Bleed It Dry. And it chugs along, and it's just really, really aggressive. For me, that track came out of left field. I didn't think they had it in them to be that heavy. And yet, in the middle of it, they kind of have an Opeth-esque section where it calms down, there's an acoustic guitar, and there's an unbelievable clean guitar solo from Mark Tremonti. And it's a nice little break that you don't really see coming. I think with this album, not only did they turn to a metal band, but they experimented a lot. There's a lot of stuff that you hear on here that you don't expect, which is, when you listen to a record by a band there's nothing more refreshing than hearing a record that surprises you. That doesn't just hold their own sound. You've heard it before, it's cool, but this really, like the middle section of Bleed It Dry, really took me by surprise. Then you get to a song like Lover, track 4, and you think it's going to be a typical Alter Bridge ballad, but the lyrics are really dark. Read the lyrics to like the second and third verses, and it's a little more middle territory. It's called Lover, so you're like, okay, is this like, what is this? Like, is this their radio song? And it's just really cool how it builds on itself. It never falls into cliches, but it builds steadily from a soft ballad territory to the more arena style chorus, and it works out really, really well. I would really interesting is the opening section of Calm the Fire. That's track 7. Miles Kennedy has a really cool kind of falsetto singing section. It's kind of classical based, the progression at least, and he really showcases some cool talent. And again, it's another left turn for this band. Hearing that introduction to Calm the Fire, like if this was, I think 2007 was when Blackbird came out. If this was 2007 and you heard this kind of in the future, you'd be like, this is not the same band. They really pushed themselves, really tried some new stuff. And then you got something like Farther Than the Sun, which is another, just like Bleed It Dry, is another new level of heavy. I mean, they've always had the down-tuned riffs, but Farther Than the Sun particularly just makes you angry. And it just got some really aggressive riffage, but still always, the melody is always there. And that's what set Alter Bridge apart from a lot of bands for me when I heard them. They have these awesome metal elements and grooves and heaviness, but the vocals, Miles Kennedy is an unbelievable singer, and the catchiness and the layered vocals of pop is always there. And I think that's what makes this band really special, is that they can combine those two things. It's very rare. Now, Fortress is their foray into metal territory, in my opinion, but it still has the signature Alter Bridge sound. It's the same band, but it's really, really evolved, and they've started to really experiment. Cry a River is kind of a classic Alter Bridge song. They've got awesome, awesome riffage in that first song, or that first section. Really cool, cool riff in Cry Me a River. You'll definitely that'll stick in your head. Then you got All Ends Well, which is a classic Alter Bridge style ballad, done very, very well. Great lyrics, really uplifting. Miles Kennedy is not known for super dark, super negative lyrics, which might be why Alter Bridge is more of a hard rock band, because they don't delve into some of the more morbid territory that metal bands do. But All Ends Well is a great ballad, and Fortress is also an epic. I'm looking down right now, and I'm seeing that I've been talking for 11 minutes. It's amazing, like how fast time goes when you're talking about an album that you really like. I think everyone needs to hear Fortress. Rock fans, metal fans. But I would also, if you're new to this band, I would definitely recommend listening to Blackbird first, getting some context on what this band is about, because many people believe that Blackbird is not only Alter Bridge's best work, but a modern hard rock, heavy metal, whatever you want to call it, classic. And I agree. I listened to that today. Every fucking song on that album is amazing. Even it goes into a lot of ballad territory, but the ballads are done so well. Miles Kennedy's voice is just so beautiful. If you want just some tracks to just listen to, Come to Life is one of my favorite songs ever. It's track 2. Ties That Bind is the more metal side of Alter Bridge. And the song Blackbird is a really cool ballad. Long ballad, almost like reminds you of a Guns N' Roses ballad, how it just stretches out and it's got cool solos and ups and downs. So I would definitely recommend listening to Blackbird first, get a little familiar, but then if you want Alter Bridge playing full-on heavy metal and kicking ass at it, probably better than a lot of regular metal bands, Fortress is a phenomenal album. It's definitely 2013's been amazing for albums between Soilwork and Killswitch Engage's comeback. Children of Bodom put out a great one, but easily when I'm doing my end of the year lists, Fortress is going to be up there. It is just, and it gets better every time you hear it, because it's a different record, so it takes a little time to listen to. That's why I'm glad that I didn't review it right away, that I gave it a little time, and I'm just sitting here, and every time I listen to it, it just gets better and better. The guitar playing is phenomenal. They take a lot of cool musical left turns, and obviously as a metal fan, it makes me smile ear to ear when I hear a great hard rock band playing full-on metal. That just is really exciting to me, because usually we're used to bands going in the opposite direction and getting more mainstream and looking for radio play, and to see Alter Bridge get heavier and more experimental and more progressive is just a phenomenal feeling, and they knocked it out of the park. It's not like they're trying to do something they can't do. They're doing it better than most metal bands do, and I highly recommend, if you're a metal fan especially, to get Fortress. And if you're not, I would check out Blackbird first. If you like Blackbird, check this out. And Alter Bridge 3 is a good record too. I wouldn't put it in the same category as Blackbird and Fortress, but that's cool too. Great stuff. They haven't made a bad album. If you like the metal stuff on this album, I'd definitely also check out Tremonti's solo album, All I Was. Great stuff. It's so hard to believe that he was in Creed, or is in Creed, who I actually do like too, but it's just so different stylistically. But definitely check out Alter Bridge Fortress. It's a killer metal album by a band that always had the potential to make one, but finally decided to, and it just came out fabulous. All right, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.